Would you rather, Ari, stay in a conference until 2036 that's going to pay you $30 to $40 million less than a conference that you feel like you have to compete with in recruiting and maybe you have a rival in that conference? Or would you like to have your lawyers go up against a document that they may not be able to beat, and if they can't beat it, it could cost you bajillions of dollars?
Well, how confident are we that they're going to beat this thing? That's the number one question. Like,
so
your
we're talking
lawyer
about
has to have
the grant of rights in the ACC and I will do the quick explanation of that. What that means is, back in 2013, the schools of the ACC signed over their media rights, so their rights to televise their home events, to the league. And so the league owns them until the end of this contract, which is 2036. And so the defense of the league, or the schools that are left in the ACC, if someone tried to leave, is we own those rights until 2036. You cannot sell them to someone else. So that's what we're talking about.
And then the lawyer's strategy would be that the landscape has changed. Like, what how do you get it? It seems like a pretty cut and dry thing to me. So
they would argue it's unenforceable. I actually wrote a story about this about a year ago. And if everyone's checking out on The Athletic, you can. It's got a copy of the original ACC grant of rights and a copy of the Big 12 and Pac-12 grants of rights, where you can look at what are very simple documents that are very short. And the attorney I talked to, because he's the one who, while he was in law school, got a copy of the ACC grant of rights, which is not supposed to be something you can get a copy of. He's like, yeah, and because he does this sort of thing in his job. He's like, if you asked me to put one of these together, it'd be like 60 pages. These things are like 4. Florida State, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. So those are the schools that would like to potentially do something different. I know that some of those have been meeting for years about doing something about this. I don't know how close they are. I get a sense from talking to people, and I talked to some people about this last week, they are closer to challenging it than previously believed. That they might challenge it sometime in the next few years. They're talking about uneven revenue distribution as a potential solution for this. Here's my problem with that, just fundamentally. If I'm Syracuse, if I'm Boston College, if I'm Pitt, if I'm one of these other schools, I'm going, okay, what is making me get less do to help this league stay together? You not leave as soon as the grant of rights ends. Like, they're still gonna leave. So why would I give you more money? Also, I asked somebody from one of those schools that wants to leave. I said, would an incremental change in the amount of revenue you get from the ACC, so you get more and Boston College or Syracuse gets less, is that gonna cover the $30 million gap? And they're like, no. I was like, then what are you doing? What's the point?
Right. Yeah. And at the end, the writing's on the wall here.
The thought is, and somebody brought this up to me last week, if you look at the history of teams leaving conferences, they usually pay about 60%. That, I think, is what these schools are operating under. That is how it will go. That it'll be just like everybody else. That's what Texas and Oklahoma did. That's what when Maryland left the ACC for the Big Ten, when everybody left the Big East to go elsewhere. If they had to pay something, it was usually about 60% of what the rule said you should pay. I don't know if that's the case this time, because again, if somebody says your TV rights are still tied up, you're worthless as a property. And that, so the assumption that Florida State could just skate off to the SEC or Clemson could just skate off to the SEC is not going to touch anybody who's not available free and clear. That's why they're always, when they took Oklahoma and Texas, the wording of who talked to who first and how that went down was very carefully plotted because they don't want anybody suing them. So I can guarantee you, if it's not all taken care of, like, Boston College is going to sue whatever school tries to leave. Syracuse is going to sue whatever school tries to leave.
Yeah, no, it's a major mess, and it's like, to me, Andy, I think, wow, 2036 is a really long time away, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, too, it's like, how long is it in the grand scheme of things? Like, is it a long time?
Too long for these people, because none of these ADs will be the ADs at their schools in 2036.
Also, too, the amount of money that the other conferences are going to be bringing in could risk burying.
Well, and that's the thing. And if you look at it from the perspective of, say, North Carolina, who could be in the Big Ten or the SEC, or Florida State or Clemson, who feel like they deserve to be in the SEC or they fit better there, they're doing the math, too, that it is $30 million over and over and over again. Now, an interesting comment. I don't know where Michael Alford was talking. I think it may have been the Orlando Sentinel he was being interviewed by. This is Florida State's athletic director, and he says, and I didn't think about this, but the Big 12 will have another negotiation in 6 years. Their next deal that starts, or I guess they'll negotiate. Yeah. Their next deal starts in 2025. So after 2031, they'll have another bite at the apple. There will still be 5 years left on the ACC deal.
Yeah, well,
at that point, the Big 12 deal, just because of inflation and everything else, might be better. So UCF might have a better TV deal than Florida State at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And that pisses them off royally.
Can you imagine? Yeah, the complex of that and what that means. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that.
So you've got to deal with all that. But
it seems to me that they'll come to a resolution at some point, because the closer you get to the grant of rights ending, is the sooner the writing's on the wall, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
there's no way. Like, we could sit here right now and say there's no way it's getting to 20.
I mean, logically, there's no way it gets to it. But even if it got to it, there's no way they stay together.
It's like if you're married to somebody, they don't love you. Like, why are you? I mean, I guess money would be at play.
Exactly.
You want to stay with somebody that doesn't want to be with you
there's
anymore.
There's no kids in this relationship. They're not staying together for the kids. So
it's all
that's when we're going to watch that one here over the next few months, because if you'd have asked me this a month ago, I'd have said I don't think anybody's going to challenge that grant of rights anytime soon. The more I hear, the more it sounds like somebody is going to step up and challenge it. So we'll see.